Imagine yourself walking through your local market to buy produce for dinner tonight. All of a sudden, you hear a constant hum above your head and you realize that it is a drone. Suddenly, you are hit with a wave of fear, not knowing whether or not you are going to be killed by a bomb in the vicinity. How many of you would enjoy this scenario? As I assumed, none of you. This is what it is like for people who live in parts of the world such as Afghanistan, Yemen, and Pakistan. They fear for their lives on the daily because of this. The United States believes that the use of drone strikes is the most effective way to end the war on terrorism. However, what they fail to realize is that more often than not, it causes more harm than it does good. Obviously, the fight against terrorism is here to stay. However, I would like to convince you guys today to curtail the use of these drone strikes on the fight against terrorism. I've done a lot of research and debated this topic throughout high school for a couple of months. Therefore, I believe I'm the perfect candidate to talk about this controversial topic with you guys today. First, we will discuss why drone strikes are an inaccurate way of fighting the war against terrorism. Before secondly, providing a solution, and then lastly, summing up what you guys can do to help this cause. First, we are going to talk about why drone strikes are an inaccurate way of fighting the war against terrorism. Drone strikes, more often than not, have a lot of problems with them. This is what hinders their success. More often than not, drone strikes will often kill way more innocent civilians than actual terrorists, which was what the goal is to actually kill. Marina Fang of the Huffington Post states, nearly 90% of people killed in recent drone strikes in Afghanistan were not intended targets of these attacks. This statistic is simply staggering. This means that the drones are doing a terrible and ineffective job of filling the status quo. There is only a 10% effective rate of killing terrorists due to these drone strikes. This means that if we are to send one strike and kill one terrorist, that means 9 other civilians, just like you guys here today, would die because of it. This is terrible. The second reason why I think it is ineffective to use drone strikes against terrorism is because it actually backfires on the United States. What the United States fails to realize is that these drone strikes actually cause terrorists to want to bring in more terrorists to help them out. When U.S. civilians kill when we kill these civilians, terrorists more often than not will recruit them so that they can help fight their cause and make sure that civilians don't die. Terrorists use things such as propaganda and other things such as sympathies to make sure that they constantly have more people to fight the war with them. This is why I believe that drone strikes are a very ineffective way to help the war on terrorism. We must figure out other ways to do this that will not allow for more civilians to be harmed, so we must prevent this from happening. Now, a solution to this problem. The easiest solution I could think of, and the most obvious one, is more boots on the ground. This simply means we must provide more troops to fight against the terrorists. This simply means that we have to create more soldiers that will be willing to fight against these terrorists. Wilkin of Moral Law, Brown and Sheben of CNN states, as a result of drone usage, there was a 460% increase in terror attacks and a 261% increase in casualties. The U.S. creates roughly 40 to 60 new enemies for every drone strike that happens. Imagine if you were these civilians and you had to go through things like this. It's simply not fun. I have another quote that states, according to a peer-reviewed study by Megan Shannon from FSU, when the number of military troops increases by 8,000%, the expected value of civilian deaths declined by 98%. It's simple. When you have more troops on the ground, that means it's almost guaranteed 100% of the time that no civilians will be harmed in the process. Another quote states, according to Joseph Young, associate professor at American University, who specializes in extremism around the world, the main reason to prefer special forces instead of drones is because these missions are cost-effective and politically expended. Unlike special ops, there are too many politics to go into the use of drones. He simply means that drone strikes cost way too much money, and it also means that we are causing political uprisings within these countries. So basically, when we are harming these citizens, they're wanting to fight more against us, which creates more terrorism, which actually is the opposite, yet again, of what we are trying to do. However, there are some advantages to drone strikes. The main advantage that I will get into is the fact that drone strikes are particularly known for targeting main terrorist leaders. Of course, when you target these main terrorist leaders, Almost hundreds of casualties that are innocent civilians will end up dying because of it. However, they are extremely effective at ending these terrorist groups. And when you eliminate a leader, eventually it eliminates a group as a whole. Brian Price of the Harvard Belfer Center finds that once the terror leader is removed from the group is 6.7 times more likely to fall, which exactly proves the point I just made. However, at what cost is it worth? Should 90 citizens that are innocent have to innocently die just so that we can eliminate 10 terrorists? No. The answer to that is completely no. That should not be the fact ever. And when these terrorists die, if you do the math correctly, 400 to 500 more terrorists will actually pop up because of this. And in the end, that is doing the most ineffective thing, which is creating more terrorism. I have to hope that the government will provide subjects that will make everything more liable, that will create more effective strategies, that will lessen the war on terrorism, and actually create it to where it is really effective so that we do not harm any civilians in the process. I'm going to give you guys two worlds. One world being where we have drones, and the other world where we do not have drones. When we have drones, it's simple. We are still going sadly with the status quo. This means we are choosing the most ineffective way to defeat terrorism, yet we are using the most effective way to kill civilians, which in turn creates more terrorism in the fact. So basically, using drones is counterintuitive. We are trying to defeat terrorism. However, when we're trying to defeat it with the action, it is actually causing more terrorism. This is why drones are not the right answer. On the other world, where drones do not exist, we use such things as the easiest resort, the special operations forces, which in turn are more soldiers. The more soldiers there are, the more effective the job will be, and the more effective we will be at making sure that there are no civilians that are harmed in the process. This is extremely important so that terrorism will not continue to end. We live in a democratic society where our voices can be used for change. This is one of the greatest things to happen to us, and we should be extremely lucky for it. So what I need you guys to do is call your senators, call your representatives, and let your voice be heard. Make sure that you let them know that this is not the way that we should be fighting terrorism. If you want to be the change you want, you must create the change you want in the world, and make sure that you side with me in curtailing the use of these drones to destroy terrorists. Thank you. Questions?
How will you guarantee that if you send troops to fight the terrorists, it won't get any casualties on the troops?
I didn't ever guarantee that, but it's just thinking of the bigger picture. Like, these people do sacrifice their lives to go to war, so more often than not, they're extremely trained, and only the best of the best get to go on these missions. So when they do that, more likely than not, hopefully there will be no American casualties. But in the bigger picture, what it's doing is it's making sure that we have control over their casualties, which in turn cause more terrorism if they die. So if you send a drone strike at them, everybody's just going to explode and their lives are going to be lost. Except when you bring our men into there who are extremely trained for this, they are able to do the mission, make sure everything runs smoothly, and make sure that there are no casualties so that there will be no terrorist upbringings.
We're making sure that Congress will pass and allow the troops go to war against the terrorists.
Well, I mean, there's no bill that makes you're not allowed to go into these countries to battle these terrorists. It's just that we've just been so infatuated with the technology of drones in the past couple of years that that's all we've been doing, and we only think about our side and just defeating the terrorists. However, if somebody were to send a bomb at Miami, Florida, because there's one bad guy there, there's going to be hundreds of people that die. So I think it's just more logical, as somebody who all human lives matter, except for obviously bad people like that there should be less lives lost.
Is there any intelligence from the government saying backing up those researchers?
Which ones?
The intelligent
about people dying?
About people dying.
Yeah,
dying.
There's hundreds of sources and videos of little normal civilians that actually are dead because of this. Families report it to the government, to their government, and what that causes is it causes more normal civilians to just want to become terrorists and be recruited so that they can fight against us, when in the end we're actually trying to defeat terrorism.
Why it's hard to control the bombs for
Yeah.
not having
The
more
the reason I'm so against the drones is because it's so hard. Like, you can control where it explodes, but you cannot control the people around it or the things around it or what else can get harmed by it. Yeah, you can be eliminating one person, which could technically create the whole thing to fall. However, I don't think that all these people would do that.
No.
Is that it?